Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about 10 basic ideas of economics. I've taken these ideas from the book called Economics Principle and Policy, written by uh, William J. Baumol and Alan S. Blinder. So let's get started. So the 10 ideas that are beyond the concern of the final exam are as follows. I'll go with them one by one. Let's go to the first one. So, how much does it really cost? Well, the true value of something in terms of economics is not what's it's tagged, but the true value of that thing is whatever you give up in order to achieve that stuff. So, well, for example, I've got an example here. Well, if you are employed and you have a job that pays you $20,000 a year, and now if you have to go to the college, which tuition fee is $15,000 a year, you need to uh, give up $20,000 job to get to the college. So the true value of going to the college, it's not $15,000, but it's $20,000. So where does that $5,000 increment came from? It came from uh, the opportunity that you gave up to gain another opportunity, that is the college. Now, well, both government and people in everyday life need to make choices. Like there is limited resources, limited income, and limited amount of everything. So we need to make choices every day. Well, if you choose to have your dinner outside, you might need to give up having dinner outside for a long time because it's going to be costly. And now, if you want to have a phone, let's say you want to buy Android and iPhone, you can't have both of them because you just have limited amount of money. So you need to give up one stuff in order to get another. So let's go to another one. Attempts to repeal laws of supply and demand. Well, in this case, what it really means is sometimes government tries to control the supply and demand just so to maintain the stability and peace in the country. Well, but the laws of supply and demand, it's natural law. It cannot be broken. It can be broken, but it will have consequences. Now, uh, I'm going to discuss about the two process in which the two steps that government takes in order to control those laws of supply and demand. The first one is price ceiling. Well, the government tries to impose a price ceiling on certain things that are good, that is made, that decision is made by keeping in mind the wellness of the citizens. For example, rental. Sometimes government might try to impose a rental ceiling, saying that to live inside the city, a three-bedroom apartment cannot go uh, above $500 per week. So it's limiting the ceiling. Uh, the ceiling is $500 and it cannot go up. And now another one is the price floor. So the price floor is generally imposed by the government on agricultural products in a lot of countries, so that it can save their farmers and work in the best interest of their farmers, because agricultural products are really important for the country, because you can't live without them, because they are the basic supply of food. Now, in these attempts to trying to control the laws of supply and demand by imposing the price ceiling and price floor, sometimes it doesn't really work, and it has a different unintended consequences. For example, well, if you impose a price ceiling on the rent prices, then the real estate businesses, even if there is a lot of demand, the price cannot go up, and the real estate businesses will be unprofitable, so they will not make more apartments or more houses. And now, I'm going to talk about the United States, about the price floor in agricultural products. United States is a huge country with huge land, with huge productivity, so the agricultural products are immense in US. So what happens is that when government tries to impose the price floor, it cannot let the price of the agricultural products to fall below certain value. Let's say potato is gonna cost $2 a kilo, so it cannot go down below $2 a kilo, because once it goes down $2 a kilo, the farmers, it's gonna impact the farmers. So in order to maintain that demand and to keep the equilibrium price at $2 a kilo, the government will start to purchase those potato. Now, while doing it for a lot of years, government has accumulated a lot of agricultural products in its storage. And what is it going to do with that? There is plenty of agricultural products inside the country. No one's starving. So it now sends all those products to the countries that are still struggling with everyday problems, with food, malnutrition, and things, especially to the African countries that are really poor, through the United Nations mission and other things. Now, principle of comparative advantage. Well, the comparative advantage principle is something like this. If there are like two countries, they cannot have the same amount of competence exactly to build all the products. Let's say, for example, let's take the example of Japan and US, and about the computers and televisions. Now, if United States is more efficient at producing the PCs, computers, rather than televisions, while Japanese technology is best suited for television building. Now, if both of the countries tries to produce both computers and televisions, then there will be a loss in productivity. Now, but if United States is great at building computers, if it just focuses on computers, and the Japan is better at television building and it just focuses on television. Now this final product, the final sum, the number of products produced in a country, in the both countries combined, will be a lot more than if it's being produced by both the countries at once. Now, what US and Japan can do is to trade those items with one another, and because there are a lot of items produced in a year, the price is going to go down. So this applies not only to televisions and computers. It was just a small example. So this creates cheaper products which can be afforded by everyone, and the standard of living of all the people will rise up. Trade is a win-win situation, but well, before it, people generally think that when one country does trade with another, or one party does agreement with another, well, it's a loss for another and profit for the other. No, but in trade, both of the parties should have a win-win situation, and one country's gain is not loss for the other, not necessarily. Now, in this case, there is something that doesn't really happen. Really necessarily happen between two countries, but it can happen between two people, two parties in an agreement. When government tries to impose regulation, let's say over-regulation into something, well, it disrupts the natural flow of the supply and demand. For example, if somebody is is in desperate need of a loan, and even they are ready to pay 20% interest, but the law is that you cannot charge more than 15% of the interest. uh, what will you do? The government will try to say that you cannot take that loan because it's 20% of the interest. But the guy who's lending the money might need that money desperately, and even he can be ready. He's ready to pay 20% interest. So it would be none of the government's business, but government is gonna interfere on that. So that might not get a good consequences. And another example is the low wage. Let's say, for example, a guy works in a country, for example, in Australia, a lot of people, immigrant students, come here and work, and they pay a lot of tuition fees. And now it's in their best interest if they could earn a lot of money in working inside Australia and pay the fees, because to borrow the money back from their home country would be too expensive. Now, if a student wants to work in a shop, and the owner of the shop offers him $6 per an hour income, but government regulations says that the minimum wage should be $15 an hour. But the student is in desperate need of the money. So what is he gonna do? He accepts $6 per hour. But here the government tries to interfere, not allowing for that deal to happen. So in this way, the student who wants to work at $6 an hour loses money, and the business owner who got the cheap labor, he loses the labor. So here there is a loss in productivity. Same goes for ticket scalping. If ticket scalping is illegal, but if someone wants to buy the ticket even in double the price, then but it's illegal to do, but he can go for it anyway, because it's the demand that has brought the price of the ticket to double the amount, and there's a customer waiting to pay the double the price. Next one. The importance of thinking at the margin. Well, marginal analysis in economic term is something that says it's the increment in the cost to produce one more unit of anything. For example, I've set an example of airlines ticket. At this point, well, airlines usually sell tickets at a normal price, but when the date of the flight has come and a lot of seats are empty, then it will rather bring down the cost of the ticket so that it can at least fill some of the people in, even at a cheaper price, because it won't be profitable to fly the plane empty. So it will start selling the tickets at low price so that it can at least recover some amount of the money, because there are like a lot of cost that airlines company has to pay, whether there are 2 passengers on board or 100 passengers on board. These are like fuel prices, taxing prices at the airport, and many others. Now, a lot of people analyze their businesses or the businesses by the average cost, but average costs can be misleading. So it's always better to go through the marginal cost. Now, another factor is externalities, shortcoming of the market. Well, externalities, it denotes the external party, which is out of the first and second party between which the deal has happened. Now, let's say a government gives permission to a chemical factory to open up a factory at a certain location. Now, it's just a business between government and the factory. Now, there might be another consequence. Now, the factory produces chemicals and there is a chemical waste. it's a toxic waste. Let's say it goes, it's being spilled down to the river, and now the toxic waste is going from the river to the irrigated land of the farmer. Now the farmer has nothing to do with the government's business or the company's chemical company business, but it is being affected. So it's the externality, it's the third party that is being affected. So the cost incurred to the external third party is called externality cost. Now this externality thing, it escapes the control of the market mechanism because it's outside the market. Nobody ever considers it because everybody is only dealing with two party. Even in the NEEV, if you see there's an agreement between the government and those chemical company, there is an agreement, but nobody sees the downside or the external third party that is being affected indirectly. Now, the trade-off between efficiency and equality. Now, there's a trade-off between efficiency and equality, just like there's a trade-off between a lot of other things. In America, well, the government doesn't really try to control everything. Rather, it focuses on the private businesses, private organizations, to open up and provide the employment. Whereas in Europe, the government tries to control everything and tries to provide employment to all the people. Now, as the America, well, it allows the market economy to balance everything. Some companies prosper a lot and some doesn't. Those who prosper a lot, they are gonna go richer and richer, and those who don't prosper, they're gonna be poorer and poorer. So there's a huge gap between the rich and poor in the US. While in Europe there isn't like a lot of people are at the same level, and in European system the economic pie is distributed equally, even though the pie is small. In American system, the economic pie is distributed unequally, and the pie is much more bigger than that of Europe. Government policy does not always succeed to limit economic fluctuations. Well, any country with a free market economy goes through a series of booms and busts, and well, if there's a good days, then there should be bad days because this economic market mechanism need to be in balance always. But the thing is that government likes boom but does not like the bust. So when there's a bust, when there's a recession or the market goes down, it tries to control by two of its weapons. It's a weapon. The first weapon is fiscal policy. The second one is monetary policy. Fiscal policy is more focused in the government decision, whether it want to tax at a higher percentage or it want to tax at lower percentage. It want to tax higher to the corporation and less to the individuals, or vice versa. And there's another factor, which is the government spending. As government spending adds to the GDP, government can control its spending. It can spend either a lot more or a lot less to control the fiscal policy. And another weapon is monetary policy. Unlike fiscal policy, monetary policy comes to the money supply and the interest rates. Money supply, well, the supply of money in the economy. You know, the more money you pump in the economy, the expensive it's gonna be, and there's gonna be a big inflation because the limited resources needs to soak up all those extra money in the market, so the price will go up. And there's the interest rate. Now the government can control the monetary policy by adjusting the interest rate at which it's lending the reserve to the banks, and again in turn the bank will again adjust its interest rate while being lent to the customers. short-term trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Well, there is a relationship between the inflation and unemployment, um, and it's a short run, and there is a trade-off. It means that when there is an inflation going up, it means that there is less unemployment, and vice versa. And about these abnormal events, well, there are certain abnormal events that has happened in the world where the inflation should be going up and unemployment should be going down, but the opposite happened exactly. The last one is productivity growth is everything in the long run. Yeah, well, for a country, individually, if you see productivity growth is the most, and it's everything in the long run. Because we wouldn't really live in the world that has got cooperations everywhere now, because they're like countries which are barbaric and dictatorship, and there's like no freedom as well. So so the countries which wants to grow in the long run really needs to have a look at their productivity. The productivity should increase every year. That's how we grow the economy. For example, if a certain factory with a certain number of people produces 100 car in a year, then the next year it should be producing more than 100 cars. That's how you keep up with the productivity growth. Okay, these were the 10 principles and 10 basic ideas of economics. All right, well, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.